Alright. Hello. Okay. So let's get to work. Normally, how I build a flake is with Snowfall, so that's what we're going to do today. Right here. Let's see. Yeah, so right here. Snowfall lib is, so if we look at my dot files, I think it's the cleanest way you could possibly build a flake. Because what Snowfall does is takes care of where you just put your systems in folders like this. Hello, how we doing today, Linad? So you put your systems in folders like this and have a default.nix and it'll take care of the rest for you. Let's throw this in there. So yeah, it'll take care of all that packages here. You just put all your packages, name, and then default.nix and export a package the same way you'd build it in Nix packages, and it will just add that to a namespace that you specify in flake.nix, which is this right here. In this case, it would do pkgs.custom dot, and then that would be deploy or sys. So yeah, let's get going. This is the best way, I think. So he has templates here. Okay, this works. Boom. All right, so now what we need to do is go in there and then edit the flake. And we'll just copy that. So a flake is essentially a standardized input-output system for the programming language Nix. So I have this, which describes that my flake. Do you know what Nix is in the first place? Because yeah, I did make a video on that. Let me see. Yeah, it's a package manager, but also it's a functional programming language and operating system that all work together. But you can use the package manager or the language separately. Here's my video on Nix, and here's my video on Nix Flakes. So, whoops. Okay, so we're not gonna do 2304. I like me some NixOS Unstable, so we're gonna do that. Right there. And then they normally follow the inputs, which I don't know, but we'll just do that. Right, and then, of course, follow this. This is all just boilerplate. Oops. There we go. So now what we're going to do is, let's see, so this would be, you don't need to do this. I didn't do this. All right. So if we look at my .files, let's see. So the best way that I could think of right here is this. So this is how a system is defined. Basically, Snowfall lets you write modules from scratch as if you're writing NixOS modules. So for example, where's a simple module? We'll just do the way bar module for this bar. So you write a thing that says, hey, if you enable desktop.addons.waybar right here, enable, then enable the package and source with Home Manager the file into the config directory. So after that, all you have to do is just write your config in here, and this will get sourced straight into right here. It'll just get sim linked in, same way Home Manager does it, and your config is there. So it's a pretty nice way of going about things because it's super modular, right? I have modules that I don't always use. Now this, you don't enable the home module, you just use it. So this will let me define everything to do with how I want to manage stuff. So this, in this case, I would say home.config file, and then I could source recursively if I wanted an entire folder. Where's suites? So here's how I normally tend to enable sets of modules. I call them suites from Jake Hamilton's config as well. So Snowfall does not come with Home Manager. You have to enable Snowfall separately. Snowfall's just a wrapper around all that lets you write modules. You don't even have to have a Home Manager module if you want, but I wrote. So right here is Home Manager somewhere right here. And then we just say, right, you can enable system modules or overlays. This is my NeoVim Flake. I still need to work on fixing that, so it's architecture agnostic, but yeah, so let's see. Oh yes, so something that I tend to do that is really nice is that you can write your own lib, which will add itself onto the Nix packages lib. So if we go here and go lib module, now I have MK option, which will just do the normal MK option, but shorter. Enabled will just say enable equals true or false. This is from Jake Hamilton's config. I don't use these too often. I like to do enable equals true because it's more consistent. And MK bool opt, I don't know what this tick is for, but he made that, so it seems to just deal, it's just an overlay. So it's an override, but yeah, so there's that, and then here's how I deal with home, right? So I just have modules, home, default.nix, and then here I say if I want to write home.file, then I just do source, and then the config deals with moving all of these option attributes into Home Manager to deal with it. So if I give you an example of working with it, whoops, right here in my apps, let's do foot right here. So I have my foot.ini, right? And then right here, I just say I want foot installed. If it's enabled right here, then I want foot installed, and I want it to source in the config directory. So this is .config/foot /foot.ini. Source that file in the local directory. So it's a nice way of working with Flakes. So let's write our first module let's write that lib real quick, and I'll explain how it works, right? So if we do this and we go NixRepl, right, we can load the flake once it's done actually going in here. We can load the flake into Nix the REPL, and then I can show you its outputs. I don't know what version I am using in my dot files, because I believe the version I'm using, like the main version that's just out, does not support nested modules. Oh, I see. I need to do Nix flake check. There we go. Alright, so now we go to lib module. And right, in my flake, we export that. I'll look at that in a sec. What I need to see is the flake.next and see what version that I am using. Right here, I'm using lib the dev branch. So we'll just switch to using that because that's what I know. Well, actually, I think he made an update, so it works now. Alright. So it also works with NixOS Generators, which if you don't know what that is, I will show you. Oops. So NixOS Generators. There we go, if it would paste. And then there's my linter saying, please use a string so it's less confusing. This is a little Nix community project that will create, let's see, it can create virtual machines for things like DigitalOcean, Hetzner Cloud, you name it, they got it. So Snowfall works with this. So this is how in my flake, if we quickly diverge right here, this is how my install ISO works. This is a specification from NixOS Generators, and then I say I want my minimal one, and I just enable the systemd bootloader and then WPA supplicant. I disable that, and I enable network manager because NM2 is way better to work with for putting Wi-Fi up. I enable SSH, and I enable the development suite, and then the system state version is just the one that I know. I really need to update system state version next time because I keep forgetting to when I reinstall the system. So here would be their formats. So you'd say x86 64-linux-install ISO or Docker or DigitalOcean, and this lets you just export that. And I know Jake Hamilton does this in his config. There it is. Right here. In his systems, he has this, and here's all his different ones. He's got some ARM machines, mainly Mac, but he also does have some DigitalOcean images, which this is his base DigitalOcean image. He enables Nix and some CLI apps like Git and do as instead of sudo. So that's a good thing to have in a flake. So we're gonna use that. All right. So Disco, I'm still trying to figure out. I have destroyed a disk doing it. I've had to go back a couple generations before working with this, so I'm not going to touch it in this stream, but I am hoping to make a video because I can't find anything on it, so I hope others don't have to suffer the same fate as me, which is messing around with it until it works. Because I want to be able to just do NixOS install, and if it's the same host, then I can do that, and it will just install my system without having to partition first. And I can even do Luke's disk encryption and all that. Anyway, now that this is loaded, let's check out the outputs. So here, if we look, outputs.nixOS modules, right? Or we can do this, outputs.lib, right? And if you look in here, okay, there's nothing because it has the Nix packages lib, but nothing else. So now we'll just write lib/module/defaults.nix, and in here we just write a simple lib. So if we go to my.files, this is basically boilerplate at this point, but we just say with lib we want to recursively work with lib and then add, just append these options that we have created into lib. So now if we look, so we exit and come back in and we go lf dot. Whoops, we need to go nix flake check, purely because I added inputs. We'll go lf dot. Then we say outputs dot lib dot, and then now we have all these override and mk bool up. So see how simple that is? It instantly added those to the outputs of the flake without any imports, which is the best part about it, because importing things for no reason is dumb when the flake can just take care of it for you. So dev shells are pretty interesting. Here you just write a derivation that it's the same as if you were writing a shell.nix, not a dev shell like you would write in flake.nix. But that's purely because we want so this is what I have in my flake. It just has tree fmt in 3 different formatters, or markdown and shell and nix, which is Alejandro, that's one of them. And that will just use tree fmt, which is in here, to automatically format all of my code, and I put that in a git hook before I commit, just to make sure my code stays consistent, which is also why I'm using conventional commits here, to try and keep it as clean as possible, unlike my old dot files. So now that we have a module, the lib modules, let's do one of the most important modules, which would be the home module. Right, this is also essentially boilerplate, with the addition that I wrote this I believe I wrote the config file one. Or I might have done this too, I don't know. Oh wait, yeah, I can't write that until we write our user module. So here's my profile picture in the repo, and here is a long boilerplate that I stole, but we'll go modules/user/default.nix, which this will create the user module. And the way that these are defined is not by the folder name, but rather you specify here. So this would be config.user, because it's the user module. That's how you define it. But here it'll just give you an icon, and then this is the name of the user account. This is not enabled or disabled, it just exists. So I only have one user other than Brood, which is the Ioga master user. And then an initial password, so that way you don't have to log in as root just to change the password on install and then change it and then log out and log back in. It'll just be password, then you can log into your account with password and then change it. So here's the profile picture that just uses the default icon, which we also need to clone. Not really, but it won't build without it, so we'll just quickly save the image. Whoops, it's in dev stream flake modules user. Oops. Yeah. Okay. Extra options, extra groups. This just lets you pass this to the user later, which is important for things like Docker or that. And then here, now we do have to write the home module because they depend on each other, surprisingly. Modules don't have to be self-contained and then depend on one after the other. They can depend on each other at the same time. So in order to use an option in here, users.config.user.name has to be in here for a manager. Now we write the home module. It's default.nix. Boom. This is basically boilerplate. This is also not enabled. This is everywhere regardless. So every module has access to use the home. And in here, we just take one of our inputs, which is home manager, and then we import the NixOS module into this module. Then we can work with it. So inputs are propagated. Alright, so now what we want to do is, let me see this real quick. Okay, that did work. Let me go. Perfect. So now we're done with the boilerplate. We can actually get to the exciting stuff. It's pretty minimal boilerplate if you ask me, and it's not even required boilerplate. It's just to get going enough to where you have the essentials of basically every NixOS system. You can't survive without Home Manager with a full NixOS system, and you can't work on the system without a proper user config and a basic lib. Alright, so now what we do is we're going to go into modules. And in here, we're going to go ahead and write a simple, let's work with hardware, right? So this is not required for everyone, but this is good in case anyone has an NVIDIA card on NixOS, and I highly recommend it. I will also paste this in the chat. It is very good. It works well for me. I've never had issues with it. I think I've updated it like twice. Just to update this because it changed the name and this environment variable to make the Electron apps. Other than that, it makes Hyperland work. Everything is good. Oh yeah, and I updated it here before. It all counts as the initial commit, but an alias NVIDIA settings to the config home, so that way it won't be cluttering up my home directory, and other than that, we're good. So this is where it starts to get important. Number one, Pipewire. This is also a basic module. Pipewire, essentially what this is doing is requiring our library and the internal version of it. Why is it doing this weird highlighting thing? There we go. There we go. So we say, hello, how we doing? So this is the hardware.audio module. So you would just say hardware.audio.enable. Installing NixOS depends on your needs. What do you use right now? What's your experience level with programming? And are you good? I guess, are you willing to suffer through pain? Because that's what learning NixOS is. But once you're through that initial very high learning curve without much help, then it's pretty easy and nice to use. Do you have multiple systems? what do you have? I'll make a personal recommendation based on where you're at. Just let me know on all those, and we'll see. Obviously, even if you don't feel equipped, there's nothing you can do about that, and you'll just have to hop in. I mean, I was doing, I was not doing much. I didn't know much when I started. Yeah, flakes. So there's kind of a long history of flakes and controversy. Basically, Elko Dolstra, the creator of Nix and NixOS, he made this RFC that Target, I believe, sponsored him to do, which was to write because everyone was basically just using default.nix with niv, I believe it is, this thing and other things. Right there, this default.nix specification, which just it depends on channels, and it's this big mess because it's not reproducible. So a flake can do a lot of things. It can describe a NixOS system like that, but it can also output packages. It can write overlays. It can execute code, right? So a NixOS flake would be a flake that describes your system, but there's also others. I mean, if we go here and go to my NeoVim flake, right, I write NeoVim, but then I also added on top a little thing that packages, it wraps NeoVim with its own config, and then adds GCC and the nil language server built in. So even though I don't have GCC installed, inside NeoVim it is installed, and that's purely for tree sitter. Yeah, it's good. So this will output in here. Here's a flake outputting overlays and packages and a dev shell. So it can do essentially everything a default.nix, a shell.nix would do, those two files. But it also does a very special feature, which is lock them. So rather than you locking it in the code with, like, let's say src equals fetch GitHub, and then you would say repo rev, this just locks it for you. So here's Nix packages. The hash, it's cryptographically hashed, so if the remote changes, it'll alert you that, whoa, something's been rug pulled. And there's the actual revision of Nix packages unstable that I'm on. If we go there, if we look, I need to sync this. There we go. I don't know why I'd be one commit ahead, considering this was actually added. What do you mean by custom device? Like a Linux system, or do you mean core booted system, like down to that? Or do you just mean like building essentially your own custom Linux distro on top of NixOS using a Flake? Oh, I see. I mean, a lot of people have reasons not to. For example, the guy that created Doom Emacs, whoops, that's not what I want. Each listener. This guy, he got me into Nix. In his dot files, he says, don't use Nix. But he says why? Because its learning curve is steep and it's very painful. And unless you care about declarative generational and immutable systems, then it's not worth it, right? And it depends on your familiarity with Linux, right? You have to know whether it's a Nix issue, which, to be honest, I feel like he's kind of gatekeeping a little with this, because I got into it. I had used Linux for like 6 years, but I hadn't really dug into the internals like he says you need, and it was fine. It's just, I learned by doing. I mean, my initial systems were horrible. But do you have multiple machines, or do you just have one? He says that matters. The main reason people enjoy NixOS is because it's reproducible, right? I describe this repository is my entire system, and there is no shell script to install it, and I can, right? There's no uninstalling. You just remove it from this, right? I say in my system, I don't want to include the SSH service, and it's gone. It still exists, but I don't use it on this system. So basically a Raspberry Pi, almost like a SBC with a screen. I mean, people do it, and NixOS can run on ARM. It does run systemd, which should be fine, but people say that too. Yeah. Yes, people do. What's his name? Crap. Use flake.nix, not Docker file is the place that I remember. There it is. Right here. Matthew Crowan, that's his name. Right here, he uses this, which is a little video I will link to. Yes, so all you need is a Nix version. That is version that is greater than 2.4, which 2.17 is, and then you need to enable Flake. So on NixOS, right, you describe that Nix needs to have this feature, but what that'll do is it'll write this to your /etc nix.conf, and this will just write that it wants flakes right here inside extra experimental features, because technically Nix flakes and even the Nix command by itself are experimental features purely because legacy backboard. But yeah, you could do that, and people do that a lot. They'll use it to here's another example, right? If we go and we look through my repositories, I have a couple. If it didn't take an eternity to load, there we go. Right here. So here's my videos that I write with Motion Canvas, and right here I have a flake.nix. I don't need NixOS for this, and it just is a little dev shell that contains Node.js and the TS language server and another tool that I used to use called VHS. And this little build inputs actually also can include system libraries like SDL2. So it would be nice if you're developing something with the Raspberry Pi. And I plan on doing something like that eventually when I buy one. And yeah, it'll work fine. But here, that video I linked, Matthew Crowan is working on basically right here. He used this to build NixOS on his own system right there on the Vision 5 board, which is basically the same thing as a Raspberry Pi. And yeah, it works fine. And he just described it. Here's his Vision 5 Nix thing where he's using a flake. He's got all this kernel stuff, but this is a custom operating system build done with Nix. It's not NixOS, I don't believe. I think it's its own little Vision 5 operating system, but it works. So yeah, it writes a little U-boot thing, so it definitely can be done, and here's that linked as well. I didn't mean to link the flake, but that's all right. We'll just say that's good. So yeah, it definitely does work, but it depends. You can run NixOS on the board as well, and people do that all the time. And it's nice because you can remotely update the system without needing to SSH in, right? So for an example, if I go to my .files and I say, I wrote a tool called sys, which depends on a tool called deploy. But if we look at which deploy, and we cat out what this is, right, there it is. All it does is use NixOS rebuild. So sudo, which is do as NixOS rebuild, and then we say the target host name, which in this case would probably be, I believe it's normally pi, right? So we do a target host pi switch, and what this will do is build a complicated one on your powerful computer, right? Your desktop. It would build the entire system here and then send it over the network from a flake, which in this case you could say the pi, and it would build it here and then send it over SSH, the entire encapsulated system in what's called a closure, over to the pi, and then that pi would unpack it and switch to that system. So none of the actual package builds or script building, because all NixOS rebuild does is evaluate all of the Nix code and then convert it into a script that will then update your system from reproducibly from where you're at to where you are, because everything that's declarative has to be converted into imperative steps. So yeah, that's a nice feature of using NixOS on there. You don't actually have to do the builds. So here's actually the NixOS wiki is also a great resource. And here they have stuff. Redistributable firmware. So they got a lot of fixes. Obviously, it's not the most ideal, but if you wrote a module inside your Flake config, then it would be fine. The great thing about all this, though, is if you're building on a powerful system, it works. Hey, ReadyF, how's it going? We're talking about Raspberry Pis right now. I'm pretty good. How about yourself? Why is the stream on this screen so far behind? That's good. Alright, I think that's all we need now. Anyway, that was a long tangent, but that's alright. Basically, recap. If you want to use NixOS, I say just dive in. If you need someone to recommend it to you, a lot of people say don't go for it because you'd know if you needed it, but that's just gatekeeping. Just hop in. Start with the VM and install NixOS and write a configuration. If you have a NeoVim configuration, just throw it inside the virtual machine and just build a config and see how you like it first. You can also you can install Nix on your system and then build a virtual machine here like this. VM from --flake, and then we'd say or Zodiac. We'll do my laptop because it doesn't have NVIDIA drivers, and I think that's what's killing Hyperland when you build it. And there you go. That's going to take the entire system described here. I don't know how to fix this yet. I believe that's my system.state version being too low. I might just need to do a reinstall anyway to clean up the system. But right here, this system, Zodiac, right here, right? I enable BIOS, and then I enable some other suites, gaming, editing, development, and my state version's there. And then I have my hardware config, which is a bunch of random stuff. And we're good. After that, that's it. So that will build a virtual machine, which will run in QEMU, and you don't have to install it, or even put it in your system config. It will just link QEMU into a script inside the results folder, which is the standardized way of Nix Flakes to build something. If you build anything, a system, an installer ISO, or a package, or anything else really, it'll all get put into the result folder symlinked from the Nix store. So yeah, you can experiment as long as you have Nix installed, which is pretty easy to get up and running. You can test your own NixOS system without emulating it at all. Or writing the flake inside a virtual machine. So I think because of these new features, it's pretty easy to get up and running. And I'm hoping with a video that I'll be making soon. I've been slightly sick this whole time, so I haven't been able to record a video. But I want to make a video about Disco, so you can declaratively run your disks, because partitioning is the most annoying part of setting up an NixOS system. I just want to hop on, and if it's a host name that already exists, I just want to do NixOS install after cloning my dot files, and it will just work. Like, that should be the easiest thing ever. Anyway, here we go. Result bin, and right here run Zodiac VM, and there we go. Here's a virtual machine. I did Virt Manager for a minute, but I don't know. I don't tend to do virtual machines that often. I used to use VirtualBox as well, but I tried both. I think Virt Manager, honestly, is probably better. Purely because you have all this extra cruft with guest editions and, like, a bunch of stuff. That's really bad, but... and then, now, if I'm working on a system and I want to emulate something, I tend to just do this. But I don't have that need too often. I tend to like to work on bare metal anyway. Password is what I said. It should work. There we go. And then for some reason the virtual machine doesn't want to enter it. I don't know why. Hyperland doesn't seem to enjoy that too much. So yeah. I need to really write a custom section of my sys script to build VMs because it's really convenient. For some reason, Hyperland just doesn't work inside the virtual machine, and I have no idea why. Right? I don't know how to use QEMU to switch to a TDY without doing it on my own. I tried it. It will switch if I do it, but then it will switch my own 2 monitors over to QEMU. Yeah, I think I'll cover that when I work with Disco, because that's probably the best way, is to showcase that Disco doesn't just have to be used to install, but also be used to run a system as well. So I don't know why it doesn't start. I'm trying. Can I do compat monitor? No, that's dumb. VGA. Can I do this? I want to switch to a TDY, but I don't know how. Let me see. QEMU switch to TTY. Go in the QEMU console and do send key. I see. So what, this? Where's the console? Maybe that? Oh, yeah, that does work. Okay, cool. So, I mean, the system works. Here is this. And, I mean, it's got EZA, and it's got my Git aliases, and it's got, whoops. It has lazy Git installed. So... I mean, it works. I don't know why it does a stupid DVI connect thing. I need to figure that out. It doesn't do it on my main system, but on my laptop it does. Let me try and start Hyperland. It says backend on any GPU. Oh, it's not running in QEMU. It's running in Box, it says. That's weird. Ah. So, why does it do that? Where's the music? There it is. Right here. Hyperland. And then we'll say std runtime error, and it will say backend on any GPU. This is an interesting circumstance. I don't know why it does that, but Omitting dbus run session. Where's that? Dbus. Interesting. Dbus run session. Why do I have that here? What is different on my system config from any other? Let's see. Right. This dwindling layout's getting a little messy. I'll send this off to another workspace. Don't do that. I tend to dwindle a master and stack layout anyway. Switch, but oh yeah, I forgot. It will create a little like file here that saves the state of the disk. So you do need to git ignore that, and in my git ignore, whoops, I have these are ignored. I ignore direnv because that's just per system, the result folder, and any qcows, and I believe that's all I git ignore. Yeah. So I know that it works here, but why does the VM? Also, if you're wondering what this boot.sw rate is, because I'm on the state version 22.11, it just for some reason would talk about using a RAID. I don't know why it only started recently. This is because in the next version, next system state version, it's default. So you know what it might be? It might be that I'm including the hardware.nix when I build. Maybe that's what it is. We can look at this on the wiki here. I can do that. There we go. No, so this is Staline. I use two things. I don't want to look Staline or it'll bring up another guy, but this. So Staline is two things. It's a buffer line, which is this, and it's also this line. And it's in my config on GitHub. But yeah, I just made it look like Lua-Line. Lua-Line was a little slow. It was one of the main things after like LSP and Tree Sitter that would boot. And I wanted a more customizable bar, so I ended up just going with a super simple bar, which just shows the file and then where I'm at in it and what mode I'm in without icons. I just like using this. And it wouldn't, I think Lua-Line didn't have a proper dark background that fit my color scheme, so that's why I ended up switching to Staline in the first place. But, yeah. What was it? Oh yeah, build, yeah. It does. So if I go to my .dot files real quick, I'm using my .dot files as an example every 5 seconds, but here's my Alacrity config. Or do you mean the bar can? I'm done. The bar, I believe, can. Default config, git. The only thing I know that it does is inside .dot files, if I open any of them, and then switch away from this. I do know it used to show the branch. I don't know what happened to it. Maybe I need to be in a file or something. Yeah, there. It'll show what branch you're on, which is nice. What? Oh, I can see that. Yeah. That does not look clean. What is that? That just looks like pricing stuff that he added. Well, you definitely can use Staline. I recommend it, but if you just want to use Lua-Line, that also works. And I think Galaxy Line is another one. Is this it? Yeah. It's by Glepner. I don't know where I've seen it. I think Glepner's done a couple. Did he do alpha.nvim? Or is that someone else? Yeah, nvim dashboard, that's what he did. So Galaxy line's pretty good. Here is an evil bar made with it. It's pretty customizable. So again, I used the line because it also comes with the buffer line here too. Because I just wanted both of those, and having it in one plugin instead of two is nice. Alright, so let's figure out why dbus run session isn't working. Alright, so if we look here, where is it? Wait, this is the wrong. Build VM. Cheat sheet. This is the old non-flake version, which is path to your next packages instance. It's dumb. This is weird. Interesting. Yeah, we'll just use the flake version of it. We use a package as a build environment. What? I didn't know you could do that. That's cool. Alright, well, I'll have to check that out. Yeah, people will do this, which is... I want to test the whole DM. Oops. Oh, it's auto-completing wrong now. What? There's no hyperland? Okay. Interesting. So why do I need to run with dbus session? And why do I have dbus on here but not in the VM? Weird. Okay. Yeah. I'm hoping with Disco to get this whole like Bible size section down to a pretty short thing. Most of it, again, with Bible size including these. There's a lot that goes into installing, and I think it's too much. I also tried, I'm sure some of you saw, I tried and failed to get GitHub Actions working. I don't know why. It takes like 30 minutes to build, and then I have to make a tag, which I don't want to make a release tag. I just want to build releases based on a rev, right? Just a commit hash, like that. Because then it's like, this is the latest version of this week instead of like a tag, because I don't want to pin anything down. I just want it to be based on whatever hash it was built on. I don't know how to make a tag that can do that. Can you make tags based on whatever? Oh. Bit tag -s. Okay, cool. You can do that. So I just gotta convert the short form version of the commit into a tag, and then I can do that to build a release. Because I don't want to wait on a strong computer 15 minutes to run this little tiny build a minimal TTY install. 15 minutes is a decent amount of time just to build that. And most of it's squashing the file system. I can just leave that to Azure Cloud that Actions run on, and that'd be a lot better, I think. Okay. What's next now? I believe, actually, can we do this? Right, because if we copy this, install ISO configurations, and we try and build a virtual machine. I know this is supposed to work regardless, but we'll try the minimal edition. Because it's not going to do the squash effect when I build this. Okay. I'm using Hyperland. This is here, right here, actually. In wrong thing. Hold on. For some reason it didn't copy. There we go. I'll just delete the old one when I can. The heart little emoji thing's in the way. I can't get rid of it. Yeah. I didn't link to the actual. Let me see. It's here. Let me permalink you to the folder where my Hyperland config is, because it's not. This is all NixOS specific. There we go. This is where the Hyperland config lives. Ignore the default.nix, and then here's where the actual theme is. Desktop themes cappuccino mocha Hyperland conf. There's the colors. Cool. Okay. I try to keep this as clean as possible, but really, I used to do two themes. The way that this used to work is inside modules desktop right here. This would have a options.theme, and this would be Nord or Capuchin Mocha, and that would symlink the one of these two. It would be Capuchin Mocha or the Nord thing, and it would symlink all this, which would symlink the color script, which just environment variables basically. My Wofi config, Hyperland, Alacrity, YAML, and all other stuff, and my wallpapers directory that was for Nord instead. Into home/themes. I think that's still a thing. Yeah, it's right here. Boom. And then all my other configurations would just like link up. It would leech off these, so that way I could like at runtime just switch it up, and then I would just everything except NeoVim would reload, and then I just have to reload NeoVim and I'd have the new theme. But I don't know. I didn't use Nord too much, so I ended up just getting rid of it. I liked it, but it wasn't worth it. Okay, so now that we have a user, a home, and a lib module, let's go ahead and work on that. So if we look here, now we can actually get to work on some stuff. So Snowfall lets you write packages just by throwing them in a package directory, but we'll write in one more module, I think. Let's do networking. I'm sure this is pretty simple, yeah. And I'll actually write it out myself and explain what this is. So this is hardware/networking/default.nix. So, right, this is boilerplate. This just includes our lib and our internal lib. Next, we say CFG. This is a shorthand for what we're configuring, which would be config dot. And then this has to be where the module is that you would use. Ignoring this dot config, you would write whatever's here, dot enable to enable the module. So we'll say dot hardware dot networking. Working. Can't type. There we go. And then we actually bring in the stuff. So now we say options dot hardware dot networking, right? Here's our options, and then with types. And right here we say we want the enable option. This is an MK bool opt. This is something from that, but it's essentially just make option bool default equals whatever. So now we say the default's false because every module should be disabled by default. And we'll say enable pipeline. And this has a lot of things. This is how OBS works on this system. For some reason, my formatter is gone. I don't know. How did I spell that? What is happening? There we go. Okay. Let's just reset that. There we go. Looking good, looking good. Okay. So now we enable Pipewire. Now we need to actually write the config, which will say, will mkif is from the standard library from Nix packages, and what this is we say if this CFG, referencing up here, right? That way we don't have to write config.hardware.networking, is dot enable the option enable. This is how we quickly refer to that. This will say if it's true, then make this block a reality, right? So in this block, now we say we want networking. This is all your normal, like what you'd put in your configuration.nix or wherever that it would be. Enable true, or you could do init equals. Because of our standard library, you could just get rid of this and say networking equals enabled because of that extra thing, but I don't tend to do that. So now we'll go Alejandra and Ali. Boom. Done. Awesome. Good. Let's look at what's next. So if we look hardware, let's do, well, that's audio. Oh wait, no, we didn't do audio. Why did I say enable Pipewire? Enable network. Here's Pipewire. So this is, again, this is the same thing. This is where you start to get a feel for writing your own modules, right? Audio default modules. So we say here, we want the hardware.audio module to exist, and we want to have the enable. And then I believe Snowfall Frost. Snowfall lib. And I believe Jake Hamilton is writing a tool called Frost, which will basically generate documentation for all the projects. There it is. So, right, here's this. You can include it. And if we look at Snowfall, or we look at Jake Hamilton config, Jake, there we go. Right here. If we look at this, he has a docs page now. Where? That's weird. I saw it somewhere. Let me check my other profile. Is it this? It is this. Okay, here we go. Right there. So this will generate this little Nord website that can run and will give you a little docs page, and it works. Let me see. This is not it. There's something else. Right, it's somewhere. It'll generate documentation for Flake, and I don't know where he put it. Maybe it's on his github.io. Maybe Jake Hamilton, the account .github.io, or maybe it's Jake Hamilton. No. That's not it either. I forget where it was. But yeah, it'll generate a little page showing you every single option, and it will utilize this little thing right here. So let's say it has the enable, and it's a boolean, and it will say enable pipewire. And then this is just normal. We say RT-Kit needs to be enabled. We enable pipewire with its ALSA, wire, plumber, jack, and pull support, which is just maximum compatibility mode for any application. And yeah, it just seems to work. OBS works fine. Sometimes it has issues with trying to pull up the screen, but yeah, so just some minor technical difficulties. So the way that I tend to work with modules is this. There's a common module. It enables Nix, do as, my audio and networking, basic miscellaneous apps. This includes things like FZF, ripgrep, and then I don't enable Git if I'm not gonna, or no, I do, because I need that to work with my system. Pass, which is my password manager, is in here. Ish, Starship, which is my prompt with this configuration, custom icons. Right, that's how I get this little icon. It's different than the one, I believe. Decomp, things that are important. And then I include Bluetooth, TUI, which is just to work with Bluetooth from a TUI perspective. Then my custom sys and deploy packages, and that's it. Yeah. And then I enable some other stuff, fonts, locale, my keyboard, like my US keyboard layout. And then yeah, so here's an editing suite. This contains OBS, Audacity, Media Info, VHS, and Kdenlive. Very basic. And then you just throw that in, whatever. And then my development suite's way more interesting. This contains NeoVim, Durenv. Durenv is very important. The miscellaneous apps. And then I just added licensor, which is nice because you just do this. Licensor MIT. And then you would just spit that out into license .m, or just license. Boom. And once you redirect that into license, now you just have a license, right? Boom. Yeah. Now I have the MIT license right here. It's a good tool. Highly recommend it. Because copying from the official like MIT license page is kind of annoying. You can also do it, I believe, for GPO and stuff. But I tend to use MIT or the old license. If I'm writing public domain video code, then I don't want any doubts as to what's happening. Right, is it -L? There we go. Yeah, it's right there. Whoops. So yeah, you could just say license or unlicensed. Boom. And I believe this might have the also. Yeah, it also has the second clause, which is this is to the detriment of my heirs, for benefit of the public at large and to the detriment of our heirs and successors, and blah blah blah. And then this is a second no warranty. It's very good. I tend to use this. I use this for my Rust game engine because I wanted, like, I don't care about credit for that for the code because it was more about the videos. That took the most effort. So I just wanted my videos to be licensed under YouTube and then the actual. But here with my NixOS Flake, I don't care if you use credit. I just use this because it's a nice license. Yeah. Sometimes it's annoying to work with, but I tend to use MIT purely because, yeah. Let's see, ReadyF. So I would highly urge you to switch over to Snowfall because, like, your system config is nice, but I feel like importing things with these default .nix, right? Just writing an entire file dedicated to importing modules seems like it'd get annoying. And I used to work that way. A long time ago, I used to work that way. And I feel like that Snowfall just makes it so much better. Right, just slopping things inside of folders and saying, this is a module now, and then I just have to say suites.enable. No, the great thing is, here's how my config is, right? Look, Snowfall exists in this flake, and then I make a flake, and then it does the rest. I make a lib folder with this module, and I export this, and I don't export it by writing it. I just do this. Boom. Now, I did this here. As soon as I wrote this module, right, it's just there. I don't import it anywhere. Like, I can search text for imports. The only place that an import would be is when I have to import another module, which is this. I import from my inputs home manager the NixOS module into the so here's my lib module, and if you look, I can just do this nix repl lf dot, and then I go outputs dot lib, and this goes on top of the Nix packages version that you have, and then boom, mkopt, for example, is there. Done. There's the Nix file in the store. If I want to write a package, I just say packages. Where's my package? This. And it's just a normal package build. I don't know why I have to leave it here, but write my shell script, and there it is. It just outputs the shell script as a derivation, the same way that it would be in Nix packages, but it's my own version of Nix packages that contains anything. I used to have overlays, right? Is that here? I believe it's here in my initial commit. Is that? Oh, overlays. Yeah, here it is. Here's my Obsidian overlay. And this is back before Obsidian worked, right? I just write this. Here's my channels, final and previous, and then I say the Obsidian is the previous version, but now the desktop item uses use.gl desktop. And I didn't import that anywhere. It's just now an overlay that applies to every version of Nix packages unless I specify that I want it somewhere else. Yeah. And then modules are nice. Here, let's say I have the foot module, right? I write this simple module that says, do I want the terminal or not? If I do, right, then give me foot and source the configuration to where it needs to be. And then I go here, and inside my, where is it? It is nice. You don't have to worry about importing. If you rename a file, you don't have to worry about any of that. Yeah, let me see. And then whoops, I need to look for text foot. I put foot somewhere. There it is, inside the hyperland thing. And then I just do this. It's this simple. I just enable it like any other NixOS module, which is apps.foot.enable, and then that's done. That's all it takes. No importing. It just is a module now that works. And I feel like that lends itself to... What did I change? Oh, I formatted. Okay. It lends itself to clean architecture. It's the cleanest architecture I've ever had. And I see a lot of people doing this import model, and it, like, as soon as you rename a file, and it doesn't apply, and you forget to do that, then your system doesn't work, purely because you don't have this empty default.nix file that just exports it. So Snowfall will walk the directory tree, and actually I can show you this too. It's quite the rewrite that you'd have to do, I think, but it took me like a week to do. I had a lot of free time on vacation, so it was good. It took a while, but it was absolutely worth it. Where is that? Nix. Let me leave this so I can show you better. Yeah, it's not a minimal. Again, my thing was really messed up. Let me see if I can show you without leaking credentials from my private.files edition. Where's update v3? Dang, okay, this was a long time ago. It's really been that long already? Jeez. All the way past bumping NeoVim, fixing the Capuchin theme, bumping NeoVim 300,000 times. For some reason I had my NeoVim config inside of it, because, yeah, but... Was I still... Okay, yeah, okay, it's here. Somewhere. Was it even higher than that? Yeah, it was even further than that. Pump Neobim. Whoops. Let's look at a different one. On caps lock to escape and hyper. Yep, that's still not it. This was in March 12th, 2023, I think. Almost there. There it is. On May 17th. What? Wait, hold on. Did it take me a week? I was on another screen, so sorry if I didn't see this a little bit earlier. I searched Motion Canvas a little bit, and it's amazing. Yes, so basically, from time to script till video is done, I started using ChatGPT to help me write outlines. I still write my videos. I just like to have a general guide as to like style and a critique. So I use ChatGPT to critique my scripts to keep them good, since I use Just and my Durham video that I still haven't recorded. But on a good week when my voice isn't dead, the scripting to done, it takes me about 15 hours to script a short video because of research. And if it's a really easy video, then maybe like 4 hours with ChatGPT now too. And then after that, I record for like 30 minutes, and then the editing process takes like probably 5 hours, depending. Like my Lazy Git video, or no, I don't think it was my Lazy Git video. Let me see. What video am I thinking of that I made? I think it was... No, it might have been this one. I think it was my Flakes video. This one took me about 5 hours. Not bad. And I was working with a... I forgot that I didn't export this at 60 frames, so I'm sorry for that. But this was with a lot of extra craft and animations that I wrote. So it's not horrible, but I'm really nitpicky when it comes to my videos. And even this video, like, I feel like it's not good compared to what it could have been. And I know it's a good video, but I don't know. I'm the type of guy that can spend the rest of his life making one video just so it's perfect. So I have to throw them out there. This video took me, like, after not using Motion Canvas for a couple months, like 4 hours. I don't know, it seems like a lot, but I really try and make sure whatever I say is correct. And I try to make sure that what I write and my videos are high quality. That's all. Because, you know, in my particular niche, there's not. I can see why people like make files, but I just generally prefer just files if I'm not in a C project, if I'm going to use that at all. I mainly use this, well, I used to use it sometimes, but I mean, Blacked Out on his channel was interested, so that's why I ended up making the video. But I think generally it does solve a lot of the problems with phony recipes that can get in the way. So, yeah. All right, let's wrap this up. A few more whatever questions you guys have, so that way I don't cut you off, and then yeah, I'm a hop off stream. What? Any questions about Just File, or not Just Files? Snowfall, and working with virtual machines or anything, or just whatever other random stuff. Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'll provide some links to Snowfall and some other stuff. But in general, I find writing modules is very simple. It's the same as any other NixOS module, right? I mean, you just tell it what the name is and then what flags, and you can have other flags. I've done this before. I think my desktop. There we go. Nope, this is not Hyperland. Did I do that? Or do I just have enable? I don't know where else I have not just enable, but yeah, you can write more and use them. I think home has them. Yeah. Options. So I say file, and then that lets me do home.file.whatever, and then I can symlink or home.config file. Just changes it to home.extraoptions.xgg config file, and I can write that. So, yeah. Why do I still have EU enabled? I don't use it now. I really need to. Let's actually just get rid of that right now. Yeah, time. There we go. And then I wrote a custom thing to use for lazy git that lets me use conventional commits, except for emojis. I'm still working on getting those implemented, so I just use this to find what ones they are. So this is not a feat. I guess remove unused EWW in done push. Done. Okay. Oh yeah. And then my to rebuild real quick. Okay. So that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will put links in the Discord for anything. If you like what I do and would like to support me, please head over to my Ko-fi page. And yeah, thanks for watching. You guys have a good one.